Hi guys, welcome to the Just Another Moment podcast. I'm really excited today to introduce Brownell to our podcast. She has an incredible story with so many different adventures and so much life experience to share with us. So I'm really excited to get into this podcast today. Brownell, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be with you. It's been great getting to know you, and I can't wait to get to know you better today and
Yeah,
get to know your audience and everything.
Yeah, amazing. Well, no, I'm really excited because when we spoke originally, I was sort of like in a bit of a rush through Amsterdam, and I wasn't able to like sit down properly, and I was just sat on the side of a canal, and but I took so many notes, and we just had like such an awesome in-depth conversation, and I was like, this will be a really amazing episode, and I'm really excited to have your insights into mental health, travel, and just like in general, like your life experiences and you know what you've learned through that. So yeah, and I'll start off. You've written a book called The End. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, and then we can go in a little bit further?
Yeah. Well, I've written a bunch of books. I'll just give you quick history, and then I'll kind of ease into the last year where the end came from. My first book was nonfiction. It was called 5 Reasons Why Bad Things Happen: How to Turn Tragedies into Triumph. And I was going through a really difficult time in my life, and I just kept thinking there has to be a reason why. Like, there has to be. And I mean, of course, we all have difficult times at times, but I was going through foreclosure, I was going through bankruptcy, my business ended, I had a relationship ended, my dog died, like all of these things were happening at once, and I kept thinking that there has to be a reason. There has to be an explanation. And I think that kind of set me on a trajectory of being so important to find the why, right? That if you can get to the why, I think you can get to the healing. And so it's been a really big thread of all of the things I've written and everything I've done. I've written a bunch of screenplays, I've written children's books, I've written novel series, lots of different things. And there's a thread of the why, within all of that. That's really fun. And but what we were talking about the other day, and what you're kind of leading to, I mean, because I've got so many other books that we can talk about and things, but the two that are really important to me now, one is the story called The End that you were talking about, and another is some novels that I'm launching next month that I'm really excited about. And The End was especially relevant maybe to your audience and to what you're doing. And I want to also just start by saying, I think what you're doing is so amazing. I've told other people about it, and they're like, oh, wow, that is just so great. It's so important to put put it into the framework of an adventure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, and in fact, you just joined the Life is a Trip group, is my Facebook group, right?
Yeah.
And it's just so for the listeners to know, and I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes, a link to join the group, but it's Life is a Trip reincarnation stories, and about reincarnation, the afterlife, metaphysical mysteries. And life is a trip, and the more you look at it like a trip, the more, it's an adventure, and let's figure it out. And it's not always good and not always bad, but hopefully there's always something to learn from it as you go through it. And that's what really part of this year has been interesting for me, because I was, like sometimes we do, I got really stuck in my life, and I kept thinking, I'm going to try this, and it's going to take me here, or this, and it's going to take me here. But I was pretty stuck. And all of a sudden my landlord, and I was living in Aspen, Colorado, which, okay, poor me, right? I mean, I'm not going to be, in fact, it's like right when this was happening, I saw Lady Gaga walking down the street in front of our building. So, it's not, I'm not going to sit there and feel sorry for myself. But I was really stuck, and I'd lived there for 7 years. And my landlord all of a sudden says, I'm raising the rent 50%. And it kind of reminds me of that old parable. I don't know if you ever heard. It's like, okay, this prince, is going to go for battle for his kingdom, but then he breaks his leg on the way. Is that good or bad? Well, it prevents this from happening. And then this thing happens. Is it good or bad? Well, it leads you down this road. So you can go and say this is good or bad, but it nudges you in a certain way. And man, did I learn this year what that nudging is and how that.
at the time as well, it's like you go, oh man, this sucks. It's like the worst thing, and then maybe 3 months or 6 months down the line, you go, I get it now. Right?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, I didn't realize that I missed that traffic light, but that's what prevented me from getting in an accident. Or I went down this road and it took me here, and I had no idea that was going to happen. So, and I'll just tell you kind of an interesting story to interject in that. Are you familiar with the book When Bad Things Happen to Good People? Have you ever heard of that book?
I have heard of it, but I haven't read it, no.
It was written by Rabbi Harold Kushner. And after I wrote my book, The 5 Reasons Why, I met him, and he offered to read my book. And lovely, 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 gracious man. And it was interesting because his response was he doesn't believe things happen for a reason. Mm. And my whole book is not only that they do, but here are the reasons, right?
Yeah.
And so it prompted me to do some more research that, and I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Albert Bandura. He's a great psychologist, and part of it was tied to him. But basically, people who believe things happen for a reason are happier than those who don't.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it makes us feel like there is a purpose for things that are happening. And therefore, and some people get really upset. Oh, well, how can you tell that to somebody going through a horrible experience? And certainly while you're going through it, you don't know, it happened. But when you are able to get to the place where going, okay, if this happened for a reason, then what can I learn from it, and how can it make me change things that take me in another direction? It's good. Yeah, so that landlord raised the rent 50%. And I was like, okay, I can't stay here under those conditions. And it was that nudge I probably needed.
Yeah.
And I was writing about Italy, which is my other novels that I'm launching next month. And I was writing about Italy. And a little bit of a spoiler in there, but about my novels. And the headline is, the novels are about a famous couple from history that are reincarnated today to fulfill a prophecy to change the world. Yeah. So it's kind of like a Da Vinci Code, Outlander, kind of tying with a metaphysical message. So I thought, well, I'm going to go to Italy. I basically never been to Italy other than crossing the border at one point from France many years ago. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go. And I found an apartment for a year. This is great. And then, boom, they weren't taking applications for visas.
Yeah, wow.
Not even taking applications. Like, I couldn't even get an appointment. And I would have had to fly from Colorado to Chicago to even get the appointment. And so, but I found, and as you probably know in your travels, I could go for 3 months, and then I had to go somewhere else for 3 months. So I had to plan my life that way. So I went to Italy. I did get the plan. I had to delay it a little bit, but I went to Italy for 3 months in October through January. And I thought, where am I going to go after this? And so it had to be outside of the European Union. And I thought about the UK, but it's cold in January.
Yeah. And expensive.
And expensive. And so I found Tunisia, as you and I talked about when we talked the other day. And I found this incredible luxury resort in Tunisia on the Mediterranean, watching the sunrise come up from my room for $1,000 a month, including 2 meals a day.
I need that link as well.
I know. I want everybody to go when I'm going back, and I want everybody to go so we can all talk, and maybe there'll be more English speakers, hopefully. Yeah. And it was so that's what I made the plan to do. And so I went to Italy. Because Italy's wonderful, but it wasn't that great a fit for me. I had been dealing with some health issues. With what's called AFib. Some people might know that, but it's an irregular heartbeat, which, spoiler alert, now it's fixed, but at that point it wasn't. And it got worse in Italy, which I thought it would be better with lower altitude. And so I so I thought, well, am I going to go back to, am I going to keep my plans to go to Tunisia? And I thought, well, yes, I'm going to go to Tunisia. So I went there, and that led to the story. Right. This was Now, I had done a separate trip to an experience that I know you and I are going to talk about in a separate podcast. So I don't want to spoil that one. But I had a really profound experience, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything, in Barcelona in November. And I think that set the trajectory for the things that were going to happen. I would say set, because set was obviously in the landlord raising the rent. And so I get to Tunisia and I have this experience. And a few weeks after the experience, which of course I'll talk about, but I don't want to spoil the story when you read it because it's, but it was all of a sudden, I'm working with somebody to help me market my books, right, and get my books out there. And she said, I need a story to be able to offer to people that's not from the books, but that people want to read, which is why I'm offering it to you guys, right? And while I'm writing this story, I'm realizing I am writing the truth. And I tell people sometimes when they're writing reincarnation stories, like if you said, I think you said you think you might be your grandfather. I think you told me about that, which I want you to tell me about that in a second. I want to circle back to that. But I always tell people, just write it, just start writing. And one of the big things about our group, the Life is a Trip group, is that it's about stories. They can be fictional or factual. They don't have to be like, I'm going to prove that I was this person at this time. There are other groups for that, and that's great. This is about stories and about the power of stories to change the world. But I'm writing this story, and I'm writing it from the point of view of what I call the upstairs, right? Yeah. So that all of a sudden I'm realizing there is a team up above, wherever you want to put it's easier to imagine it up above, right? We don't want to look like down below. So up above, I call it the upstairs. There's a team that is orchestrating everything. And I'm telling you, Arthur, it was just so amazing because all of a sudden, and I've been around the block a few times, I've lived a fairly long life, and yet I'm sitting there going, this is a whole nother perspective. I've always been very goal driven and very like, okay, I'm going to set this plan, I'm going to make this happen. And I just kept running into roadblock after roadblock after roadblock in my life. And that's one of the reasons why this trip, like I was going to go to Italy. No, I can't get a visa. No. And all of a sudden I get this story that comes to me and I realize I'm writing the truth. These characters, and it's comedic too, so they're really fun up there and they're having fun and they're like arguing with each other and it's not all this like, we know all the perfect stuff. No, they're kind of working on it too.
Yeah.
But I'm writing it and I'm realizing like this is real. This team up there is real. This team is orchestrating things, and I call it the traffic angels. And it's like, and I will get a little spoiler because it's kind of obvious when you start reading the story, and it's only 9,000 words, so it's a quick story. But it was like, how do you get an American woman in Colorado to meet a British man in Tunisia? Yeah. Like that's some logistics.
Yeah. It's crazy, yeah.
And it's so much fun. So I want to get your reaction. Also, I'm sure you've probably had stories like that. Like, how did this happen? And I know somebody had to be helping me here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so much to unpack with that. But I think in terms of like even in the last 6 months for me, I've had so many different experiences where like I just got pulled away from the direction that I was heading, right? Like I was moving towards this a place where I've just continued traveling and just enjoying what I was doing, enjoying life, meeting new people and having all these like amazing experiences. But there was 3 things that happened in the space of 9 days for me that just completely changed my trajectory around what I was doing and where my focus was going. And the first thing, it was me leaving Africa. I had a flight scheduled to go from Tanzania back to London, and I was meant to catch up with my friends to watch a football game, which would have been my first like Premier League football game that I've ever seen, and it's one of the biggest things that I've always wanted to do. But my plane got delayed for like 48 hours, so I was meant to leave on Friday at 4 p.m. I didn't leave until Sunday midnight, so I didn't get to England until Monday morning, which was, for me, it was just so crazy. And I was stuck in a hotel. So that was the first thing. Then I got to my auntie's house, bought a car on the Wednesday, insured it, taxed it on Thursday. On the Friday I had left, I was driving through France and Belgium and the Netherlands, and got into Germany, stopped off in Germany for the night, and then Saturday night I continued, and then the car blew up. on the autobahn, and it was just it was just like couldn't do anything. 4 o'clock in the morning, Sunday. Don't speak a word of German, and no one was
Except
around.
a few cuss words, probably, like
Yeah,
me.
yeah, a couple, yeah, a little bit, yeah, definitely.
I got a few of those. That
Yeah, absolutely. And
beer. I know how to say beer.
yeah, yeah. So I know a little bit, but not anything that you'd want to, like, you know, put your thumb out and get someone to stop for you. And yeah, I just thought it was like really fascinating that like that happened, like the plane happened, that happened, and I was like, man, this really sucked, and it like got my energy down, and I was quite flat with it. And then I reset myself, and I was like, because what I was meant to be doing is driving to Italy and getting, you know, similar circumstance to you, I suppose. It's like trying to get to Italy to join a co-living experience for 2 weeks, skiing and all of that, and my intent with that is to learn off these digital nomads and understand exactly what and how they work online and travel the world. And I wanted to learn from them while setting up this business. So I got a taxi, 2 buses, 2 trains, got to Italy, got picked up by a friend who was on the co-living experience with me in Austria. He drove for us to Italy, and then everything was all good. The next day I hired my skis because I had to leave everything in the car because I couldn't carry it all. So I hired skis, got on the mountain, had a hot chocolate and a croissant, and then 4 turns in, my left ski had come off, and I had snapped my AC joint. You know, so complete shoulder dislocation, torn ACL, not ACL, AC joint, which is still not attached now.
Oh my God!
And that was in 9 days. So in 9 days, I went through 9 countries, and lost the equivalent of like $20,000 Australian, a little bit more through the car and the extra flights and everything, and I was just like, man. And then so I got back to England, and I was like, what can I do? I can't get a job because I'm injured, and I've got to wait for like doctor appointments and stuff. And I was like, I'll just focus on what I've been intending on focusing on, which is just another moment. And you know, that was only the end of February, so that's, what's that now? It's 6 months ago, not even 6 months, and so much has changed just through course corrections, which, you know, like as you say, is the higher ups, right? And yeah, I think that's so interesting, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier as well, is, you know, people that believe things happen for a reason are happier, and I think that goes down to like the human fascination of understanding something. They need to understand why things happen so they can process it, because outside of that, how can you compute why these things happen, you know? So yeah, I thought it was super interesting journey, and yeah, like it's similar to you, right? You have these things, these course corrections that take place, and then it just sets you on a completely new direction.
Right, and it sounds like that it gave you that time to be able to focus on where you are now, and if you hadn't had that time, it was given to you, right? So yeah, and sometimes those traffic angels or whatever, the upstairs, you know, they're like border collies knocking you right down this way, and you're like, I want to go here. No, you're gonna go here.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they will just whack you. And so that's what this year has been like for me. Is this all of a sudden when I'm writing this story and I'm realizing it, and like I have to just surrender. I have to surrender. I mean, now it doesn't mean I'm not setting out tasks and putting to-do lists and doing what I have to do to get to launch my books. What's in the short-term future I can see. I also have to know if this is going to go this direction. It's going to go this direction. And I right now I'm in Atlanta. I was in Tunisia for 3.5 months, and then came back to Aspen for 2 months to get my heart thing fixed. And then I came to Atlanta, and I'm in Atlanta for a little while, and then I'm going back to Tunisia. So if you want to meet up with Tunisia, end of the year, I'm going to probably be there for November, December, and into January, just because it's so affordable and beautiful, and you know, healthy, and you know, great for writing and all of that stuff. But I don't know where I'm going to end up long term. Like I'm in a hotel, I don't have possessions, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm the
Yeah.
same. Yeah.
And it's so funny when you go through that. And I think that's part of one of the beautiful things about what you're doing with your whole mission and what you've probably been through yourself is what you learn. One of the things you learn from all this travel is the things that would bother you if you were stuck in a one place, just they're not even on the agenda. Like, oh, my pillow's too hard, or my mattress is too this, or I can't. Like you get the mattress you get when you're in the hotel. I do bring a little pillow, but I mean, like you get what you get, and you just don't even. That's not even something you put on the list of things you worry about.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, like what I've learned is sort of like with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When you strip away all of your possessions, you just go back to that very basic level, right? Have I got shelter? Have I got food? Have I got health? Pretty much like that's it. And then you start moving up.
Clothing too. You need clothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh boy.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, but you do because I got to Amsterdam with just a shirt, my jeans, and my boots and underwear and socks. That's all I had. For the second time, I've arrived in a country with only the clothes on my back this year. So you definitely need clothing, but it is one of those things you start to learn that hey, you don't need that big TV, you don't need this, you don't need that, and you're able to actually appreciate a lot more. When I go from sleeping on a yoga mat to sleeping on the couch, I'm grateful that I've got a couch. And when I go from a couch to a bed with a mattress, I'm like, oh, this is like heavenly, like and then having a bed with like 4 pillows, so you can just like, it is there's so much to be grateful for, and that's the thing of it is you strip away all of the things that you have, and then you become so much more grateful for the things, and like it's easier to practice gratitude when you have less.
Right.
That's what I've sort of figured out,
Well, they say the people with less are generally the most generous too.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is also interesting. It doesn't necessarily intellectually compute, but but you're right, and I think I'm a big fan of Mark Manson. I don't know if you follow any of his stuff, but one of my favorite quotes from him is "Happiness is solving problems."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you think about that, like, wait a minute, but it does, and that's why I think one of the reasons I love writing is because I was like, okay, how am I going to get this story told? How am I going to think through it? It's constantly solving a problem, and same with the travel. It's like, okay, where am I going to be next? Okay, how am I going to be here? And when I came to Atlanta, I went to one hotel that I thought was going to be okay, and it was not okay. It was not okay. And I'm like really, really kind of nervous and nasty, it was in there. And so a friend of mine said, go to this other hotel and just go in and try to talk to the manager, walk there, because I didn't have a car or anything. And I was able to, I tell her all the time, the manager here, like, you saved my life. And the little things, like you said, I'm so appreciative, like, oh, they bring us paper towels. Like, this is so great.
Yeah.
But it does, and it's really a fluid lifestyle. Like I can, and I noticed one thing that was so beautiful and profound. As I was doing what they wanted me to do, they would reward me with happiness.
Yeah.
It was very weird. It was not like, oh, I'm just happy today. It was like they would like send me happiness juice or something.
Yeah.
And when I wasn't, they wouldn't. And so I'm like, okay, I must not be doing what the border collies want me to do. Yeah.
And do you have a higher level of energy with that as well? Do you feel?
High level of energy and just it feels good. It's like I'm on the right track. I'm, even little things, that you might overlook or like, this is just so great,
Yeah.
They bring us little dishwashing soap and, like the littlest thing, but I don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
So, and part of me this year was thinking I want to figure out where I'm going to be, and I don't know how much to spoil of this story, but I will say it's a love story, right? And it's also called The End, so that kind of tells you a lot about it. But do you look at experiences and you go back and go, okay, that was really hard because it didn't go where I wanted it to go, or that was really beautiful. It just didn't go where I wanted it to go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think when you look back and you reflect, and I think that's like one really important thing with life is if you have that time to reflect on things, you can really start to uncover and understand, you know, why something might have happened, why you might have been guided in that particular direction, right? And I think that's like a super fascinating part of, you know, so I think like so many people live life where they're just so in tune in that routine, and routine is good, but when you get stuck in a cycle of doing the same thing over and over again for like 10 years or 15 years, and you stop becoming aware, you start living unconsciously, and everything happens on autopilot, and you remove yourself away from actually being able to process what if you did process certain things, it would help you understand more. And so when you go back and you're able to reflect and you've got that time to do that for yourself, you have a much higher understanding of like what makes you happy, what gives you energy, and it's just again practicing that gratitude and being much more mindful, you know. And through that gratitude and mindfulness, you've got more empathy with people as well. You have a deeper connection and more understanding, and I think it's a really cool dynamic that you know, these things happen, and when you can get to that point of understanding why those things are happening, or at least give yourself a understanding of why those things are happening, because it might not be true, but it's true in your reality, right? I think that's where you can really uncover a lot of like really cool things. So
Yeah, and that's really the thread in all my writing, is it all kind of comes through to the why, right? You know, and you know, you can talk about healing, and there's a little bit of a reference to healing in the story, and you know, doing healing work, and I'm you know, a lot of us have had experience doing healing stuff on others, and to me, it's so important. If you get to the why, you can get to the healing, right? You know, and when I talk about the 5 reasons why bad things happen, the thing they all have in common is change.
Yeah.
Right? There's something to get you to change, and that you may feel like it knocked you, you know, off path, but that may have given you that direction to change something that you were stuck, and you know, and that's what was fun about writing this story, because it was from their point of view. So they're going, why is she doing that? Why won't they do that? Why is this happening? You know, like they were mad at the Earth people for not doing what they were hoping, but then they are also kind of like, you know, they're talking to the traffic angels, like, well, why did you do that? And what would have happened if it had gone this way? And you know how frustrating it can be from their point of view when we get stuck, right? And so it's just super fun to go through that whole perspective, and get people to start looking at the why, and you get the meaning to it. But if I could just go, you know, poof to your shoulder, right, problem, and healed it, then something else might have happened to get you where you were supposed to be, which is to have that downtime to focus on where you are now. Yeah, right? Definitely. And so would that have been the right thing for me to do, is go poof, heal that? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the case as well, because there's so many, you know, like it wasn't, the shoulder was the third thing in the series, right? It was
right.
The plane was delayed for 2 days, right? And what was that saying? Like, because the original plan when I left Australia, it was to go to Africa for 3 weeks, do a road trip in Africa and do that. Then I ended up having an opportunity to Kilimanjaro, so I did that, and I spent another 3 weeks there. And so when I was meant to leave in the 21st of January to go back to Australia, I continued, and all of a sudden it's mid-February, and now I'm on my way to England, right, against like what my path was. And then so I got to England, and I was continuing my travel, but deep down in my heart, I've always been like, I've had this awesome business idea, but I wasn't doing the work that I needed to do, and I was just enjoying my time, right? And so the plane was the first delay to be like, stop. I believe the second stop was the car blowing up, because at that point, if the car blew up, I could have gone back to England, just reset, and not continued. But from 4 a.m., it was 10 a.m. I left Germany to get to Italy. Within 24 hours of me leaving the taxi, which was my car that blew up, within 24 hours of me leaving the car in Germany, my shoulder was gone. So within 9 days, all of that had happened, and it was literally stop what you're doing, stop what you're doing, stop what you're doing. And by the time I had a sore shoulder and I was back in England on a blow-up bed at my friend's apartment in London, because I couldn't carry my bags far enough really. So I was just like, I get to London, I got help from some amazing Australians actually that just noticed me and helped out. And then my mate picked me up from the train station, and we just walked back to his place. It was pretty close. When I was sat on the couch, they went off to work, and I was just sat on the couch going, man, what am I going to do? I don't want to go back to Australia. Now I can't get a job because my shoulder is done, and even if I went back to Australia, I wouldn't be able to do the job that I had before. What can I do? And I was like, well, I've had this business that I've literally been manifesting, and I've been working on, and I've been building, but I haven't done anything proactive with it. And then that was the triggering point, right? That was really the thing where I just was like, start writing. So I started writing out all of the ideas that I had, because I had a mind map and put it down.
I love mind mapping.
Yeah, and it was such a powerful exercise. But then actually taking that mind map and putting it into a business plan and document, saying this is everything. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And then putting down the why and the hows and the what's we going to do, and developing that. And then I've been really hyper focused ever since.
Well, look how far you've come, right? Exactly. Just in February. I mean, that's amazing. Yeah.
And none of that would have happened if I didn't break my shoulder, basically, because I would have maybe learned some things from the co-living experience, but that wasn't the time for me, right? That's what I've learned. And I love how you say the why is everything. This is one thing I do with my coaching clients as well, is I try to get to five whys deep, right? So you ask a question, and they say, oh, this, and you go, okay, well, why is that? And they answer that question, you go, well, why is that? And they keep going, and normally that fifth or sixth one, they have no more whys, they have no more answers for it, and then, well, that's your why. Right? That's why you're on this path, that's why you're doing this, or that's what is stopping you from being able to do that. And I think the power... And
now you can ask their why. The next level is to ask what their why is. Exactly. What do they want from you, right? And what are they planning? Exactly. Yeah. It's
such a powerful question.
Yeah, and it allows you to keep digging and to understand, Yeah. And yes, you can get to the point where you're driving yourself crazy, like, oh, it's raining today. Why is that happening? Well, maybe it's to stay inside, maybe it's to get warm water from the sky on your shoulders, or maybe it's just raining. But it, especially when it comes to physical healing, I found that that it really helps to get to those whys. And for me, it led me to write that story. That story changed my life. I mean, the whole experience that the story's about, like I said, it's just 9,000 words, so it's a short, little story, but it changed so many things, and it put me on so many different levels, and it just took me out of this box that I was in the whole year. And now I realize they were behind the rent increase.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I now have to go backwards and go, they were behind the fact that they weren't taking visa applications. I mean, a country is not taking visa applications. I mean, that's so odd. And but then I really feel like they were behind that. And and then even the aftermath and what I've learned from it, and I mean, so many people. In fact, really, you'll appreciate this, because there were some red flags that were happening during that time, and I had some friends, don't go there, don't do that, no there's red flags, and I'm like, I am going down this path, I am going to pursue this experience, and And I told a friend of mine, I said she needs, and she's like, she maybe ended up writing a book about it or whatever. But we run into so many naysayers, right? Don't, like, somebody could say, well, let me tell you all the things that could go wrong on your trip. You shouldn't go. And you're like, I'm going. I know I could do this. I could run into this deadline. And we need yay-sayers, not naysayers.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and if I was your friend and I said, look, you were going to go on that trip, and I saw some things that could happen. Let's say I was psychic and I could see, I would just say be prepared. But if that got you to where you are now, why would I take that experience away from you? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You look at these friends, and I'm like, I don't regret it. I could be wallowing in the things that went wrong, right?
Yeah.
But instead, I'm like, I'm going to learn until I get the learning I'm supposed to get. I'm not going to let it go.
Yeah.
And then once I get to the learning, then it's poof, the problem's gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
definitely.
It's such an important aspect. And it was just now I don't know. I mean, I know I'm going to launch my books. I've got my new podcast. And that all the things that subsequently happened. We've got the Life is a Trip podcast, and the whole objective there is to celebrate stories of reincarnation stories.
Yeah.
And I really do believe these stories can change the world. And it's you go, oh, come on, but and I want to celebrate other writers. So if there's anybody listening that writes those kinds of stories or wants to write one, they can be fictional or factual, and as they're writing them, the people writing the stories, they're becoming more enlightened, right? And as people listen to these stories, because it's not an interview podcast, it's a podcast where it's like Modern Love, if you know what that one is, which is just an anthology of stories. It's a metaphysical modern love, if you will. And so that kind of all fed into that, and now that's launched. And so it's very similar to you in terms of what are you going to take from this experience, and how is it going to move you forward in a direction that hopefully they want you, they want you to go. It's super fun and powerful. And I think I know you were telling me a little bit about your reincarnation story. Do you want to tell a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was just going to touch on actually just before we go into that, but like the whys with life and whatnot, and particularly with like Just Another Moment. It was you mentioned before that if you were able to look into the future and say, I'll stop you from doing that because this might happen, but instead of be prepared, right? Because you never know what's going to happen. I could cross the street and something bad could happen if I'm just crossing the road in my hometown, or I could go to an overseas I could travel overseas and something bad could happen as well. But like, it's the preparation of that. And what I've learned is so many people are scared to do things because of fear of judgment from others, or just fear from like the news and stuff like that they end up living an entire life wanting to do the things that they wanted to do, not actually doing the things that they wanted to do. And that like falls into like, we have 4 whys at Just Another Moment, which the first one is helping people overcome their mental health challenges through adventure, community and education. The second is living life for those that can't. The third is showing others that life is worth living. And then the fourth one is helping people achieve their dreams. And like, it just goes back down to like, if you're stopping people from, if you're saying, oh, don't do that, or put that fear in them, you're stopping them from achieving what they actually want to achieve for themselves. And it's what I try to encourage, is particularly through this community, is helping people. If you're a solo traveler, you can come to like a Just Another Moment retreat or expedition, and you'll be able to feel part of an amazing community with like-minded individuals where you get to learn and grow at the same time and just have this amazing experience. And everyone's scared to do something for the first time. Like, I was scared to go to Vietnam on my own and volunteer. And even the first time I went to Vietnam when I was 19, I was like nervous because I was just doing it on my own. But the more you do, I actually find solo travel is a gateway to more social travel, because you're forced, then you can choose to shelter off and just be on your own, or you can choose to meet people, right? And like with your experience in Tunisia, like without you going there on your own, if you had a friend with you, maybe you never would have had that interaction with meeting that British guy, right?
Right,
So,
exactly. And I would, like I got a text a few weeks ago from the resort saying they miss me.
yeah, really.
And I thought, I was at that one resort for 3 months and another one for 2 weeks, there's not many people speaking English there. Let's be honest,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so then I'm palling around with the people working there, right? I mean, like,
yeah,
those are kind of like my buddies after a while, and they don't necessarily make, like getting deep, long conversations like you and I do, but it's still like, and you're like, oh, you speak English, or you're my best friend.
yeah, yeah.
you know, um,
That's,
yeah, you do. You get and you start hearing different perspectives that you wouldn't have heard, and getting a different point of view of the world and life. And it's been really, really interesting. I don't know where I'm going to be next, other than I think I did make my reservations to Tunisia in 3 months, so I think that is probably going to happen. But
I might see you there. It sounds great.
I would love for you to pop down. It's so easy to get there from England. I mean, you just pop.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Pop down there.
I went when I was 7, with my mum and my sister, and I think my auntie as well, maybe. But I just remember having like such a good time there, and it was like so different. At 7 years old, never really gone anywhere outside of Europe, and then all of a sudden you're in Tunisia, and it's like just hot, warm, like it was really.
It was, and even in the winter, it was still really nice. And there was like, I went to karaoke night in the resort, right? Because the resort has all these things. So I'm singing karaoke, and I sing a Carrie Underwood song just to put in context. And there was a group of young, half my age Muslim young women, and they're like, come with us and sing ABBA. So I get on the stage and sing ABBA with them, and it's like, I mean, it was just like such a highlight. Like I was one of them, and we were all, ABBA brought us together, and we're singing Dancing Queen.
Yeah, don't you find as well, like it's so, like everywhere I've gone, if there's an opportunity to do karaoke. Now, when I'm home, like in Australia or like England even, like you wouldn't go karaoke, right? Like it's just not something that I would do, because that fear of performing and like this, but when you're overseas, there's this like weird, like for me at least, there's this weird thing where I use the attitude of, I don't know anyone,
Right.
I probably will never see anyone again, so it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
And what I find is you have such a big community, like feel, you're no longer of different culture or different race or religion. You're just one. You're human.
You're all singing ABBA.
Yeah, exactly. You're all human singing ABBA, and I think that's like the most beautiful part of like the karaoke and traveling, is like you can let go of like what those of the expectations or the opinions of other people, and you can just be yourself. But and by being yourself, you're ultimately being human, and those divides that you experience, like in England at the moment, is like it's quite full on, particularly for me coming from Australia. There's like not really anything bad that ever happens there, but seeing that in England, there's that divide, but when you travel there isn't, and I find that super interesting.
And it means so much more, right? It's like all of a sudden, you're just connecting to somebody who you would never have met any other way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
But you have to come down now and see karaoke.
Yeah,
even though we do know
will.
each other, you have to come down.
I will. If it's $1,000 a month, I'm sure I can make that work. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll,
Black Friday is when they have the especially good deals, because I went even lower in price and got the Mediterranean view and watched the sunrise from my window every day.
Amazing.
For that price, yeah.
I'll definitely have a look. So we'll get into the reincarnation. I just need to check my my powers. I don't know why it's not actually connecting, but I'll just fix that up and then we can go into that. Bear with me. There we go. I plugged it in ages ago, but it just it just didn't connect. All right, so I'll just mark that clip as well, and then we can get back into it. So I'll give it like a 3-second count, so I can just make sure I can clip it out properly as well. Cool. Okay, so so tell me about your experiences with reincarnation and like your views on that, because I know we had like a really cool discussion, and I felt it was when you actually brought it up, because some people go, oh, reincarnation, it could be a little bit woo woo, and like for me it just, I was like, okay, cool, like I can share like how I feel and how I felt for such a long time as well, and as you mentioned earlier, and we've spoken about, it's like for me, I feel like in some part of me there's a reincarnated version of Grandad, or I am Grandad in some sense, right? Whether or not it's like a spiritual feeling from above and watching over me, or experiencing life as John as it was, like as it is right now. And so like I find that really interesting, and if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit around your experiences with reincarnation, or like your just a sort of like understanding of it, I think that'd be like really really cool to like learn more.
Yeah. Well, I think that I kind of tell people, like, I do write about it a lot. In fact, I even have a children's book about reincarnation for kids, and another one about kind of the meaning of life. And and by the way, kids, when they're little, they remember. Like if you ask a 4 or 5-year-old, a lot of times they'll tell you who they were. Like they just they don't know that they're not supposed to remember, if you will. Yeah. But I tell people, like, and that's why the stories are fictional or factual. I'm not here to prove anything. And it doesn't have to be proven. I don't need to believe in time travel to enjoy a time travel story. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And it doesn't have to assign to any religion. You can be non-religious. You can be pure science-based and say energy never dies. It just changes form, right? I mean, that's basic principle of science. Yeah. I just think they're fun stories, and I think they're interesting. Like my novel, like I have my characters and they're present day, and then I have them in 1930s Brazil, and then I have them in the Renaissance period in the 1500s, and they meet Shakespeare, and then I have an other lifetimes before that. So there are 5 different lifetimes I cover in that. And how fun it is to say this character is who they are today, and then how does that compare to the same, quote, people, but in a whole different time period, a whole different body, a whole different life situation. So from a writer standpoint, it's just the most fun writing. And I've also found like really profound shifts in people's perspective. It opens their minds. Like, I don't care if they believe in it or not, but I love opening minds, right? Yeah. That's what I want to do. Like, oh, I never thought about it. And in fact, I was asked to be a thought leader for an organization, and they wanted me to write a story. And I said, well, I think these stories can change the world. Yeah. And I was like, and here's why, because one thing is if we think we're going to come back, then we're going to take care of the planet better, right? Because if we're going to come back here, we're going to have to, and if you believe in karma, you're really going to have to. Yeah, definitely. So I mean, in some regards, there are things like that. I even have a little spoiler in my novels, where the characters leave clues for the next lifetime to find. So like, what would you do if you were leaving a clue for who you are next time? And some people say, I want to sock away money so I'm not poor next time. But what kind of clues would you leave? And so it's just really fun to look at the dynamic of that and go, okay, I've got this future. And then I also told a story. I was like, how can they change the world? And I'll tell the story, which is, and this is a true story as well. I'm in Tunisia, and I had a friend of mine who loved reading my books, right? She loved reading the reincarnation stories, and she read my screenplays about it and everything else. Yeah. But she's a very diehard atheist, right? Yeah. No belief in afterlife, and she would send me articles like, well, here's the proof that there's no afterlife, and I'm like, yeah, but that's been refuted by this, this, and this, just so you know. Like, And we would tease each other a lot about it because, I'm not, again, I'm not going to like evangelical, try to get people to believe something. Although I will say, when you're talking about Christianity, isn't the whole foundation of Christianity that Christ will come again? So isn't that reincarnation? Like,
Yeah.
they say they don't believe in it, like, but isn't that the whole basis of it all?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
So that part that is kind of fun to tease with. And again, I'm not going to prove anything to anybody. But anyway, I teased her, and she got a few years ago. She got a terminal illness, and they were like, you know how much time left, blah blah blah. And so, and she was a good enough friend. I was like, then you're going to come back and tell me I was right. You're going to come back and give me a sign. When you go, you're going to give me a sign. So we laughed about that. And she gave a huge heroic struggle, and she lasted a few years longer, like maybe a year or two longer than they expected her to.
Yeah.
And then she was, at the end, and I told her granddaughter, I said, remind her of her promise to come see me. And that was her last smile in this lifetime, was she smiled like, okay, Brownell is not going to let this go. But I also think on that level, I was a hospice volunteer for almost 10 years. So, I've been around a lot of that kind of experience. And so that's why I, might sound like, oh, I'm just being light. But if you do know that there's more, and you do know you're coming back, it isn't as heavy, right?
Yeah.
But I loved knowing I gave her the last smile. And she had a best friend and her granddaughter, and both of them were very much atheist. And I said, but they know the story. Like I said, to tell Karen, hey, come see me. And a lot of times birds can be the way that spirits can come through. A lot of people will say that. I'm not the only one who's ever said that. But it's a good way for like a spirit just kind of to enter and do that. And so I'm in this resort in Tunisia. So if you come down, you'll see one of the kind of amusing things about this resort is they leave the doors open because the weather is really nice. And birds fly in to the cafeteria. So while you're eating, there's just birds flying all around. And of course, birds flying around was not going to be, oh, that's the sign I need, because there are always birds flying around. But one day, she'd been gone maybe a week or two, and it's a big resort, two huge wings of it, very far away from the cafeteria, like a really pretty decent hall. And I see a feather outside the elevator. And I say, okay, if that's you, move the feather closer to the elevator. And next thing I know, the feather is closer to the elevator. Right? So I'm like, okay, this might be, like I'm testing you. And then like the next day, I think I see, and I was like, okay, if you're going to come in the form of a bird, I need you to really come close to me. Like really look me in the eye, make a communication with me. This is not you flying over my head and me making that up. And I told the friend and the granddaughter all of a sudden this bird that's there and does exactly that, and then another bird comes with them. And it was long enough to say this is something, right? This is close enough and long enough for me to say something. Then I leave the cafeteria, go back down long corridor back to my room, go take the elevator up to the third floor. There are two birds right there over the elevator.
Yeah.
Like right there, and a third one outside the window. Like there never were birds inside on the third floor down the corridor, only in the cafeteria where they could fly in and out.
Yeah.
And I told the friend, and I said, I know she's there with her husband. That's the second bird, and the third bird was her friend's husband who passed away like a year ago. And I can't tell you how much joy it gave to the friend to even just imagine that that's possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if I changed her mind on anything, but it gave her joy, to think that they might be hanging out up there, flying around, like come down here, fly around as a bird for a little while, and then go back to where they are. So those kinds of things can really impact. And I've had one of my fans say, one of my books actually changed her life. I mean, saved her life.
Yeah.
I mean, so you never know what impact you can have.
Yeah, exactly. And
tell me your story. Everybody wants to hear your story.
Yeah, I think that the power of stories and like sharing stories is so strong, and that's why like part of Just Another Moment is dream, share, inspire. Right? We have what we want to be able to do is our fourth why is take people's dreams and help them achieve them. And if we can achieve their dreams, we can share their story of how they achieved their dream, but we can also talk about their mental health struggles or challenges within the story of them achieving their dream as well. And we can use that story then to inspire other people to dream, and then you create that really nice round circle. And I think that's like such a beautiful thing, is like helping someone be happy, or helping someone dare to dream, or do something they didn't think was possible, or anything like that is like really, really cool. And I really believe that from my own experiences, whether or not like my granddad sits inside me or just sits over me watching, and it was really interesting actually when you started talking about reincarnation. I had this on the left side of my body, like this wave that ran up me, and goosebumps just on my left arm just came in, and it was almost like a touching of like, you're here, right? Or like, I'm here and I'm with you in this part. And I've had so many experiences like that, and a really interesting one as well. Anytime I speak to someone in a religious, like, you know, if they're talking to me about religion, for example, I had 2 experiences in Amsterdam recently, where two people, 2 different religions came up to me and spoke to me, and I had the same sort of experience. Like, I'm all of a sudden more present, then I feel the temperature drop, then I feel like something over like my body, and I get goosebumps, and then I'm just fully in tune with like listening to the message. And I'm not a religious person at all, but what I believe is, I believe in spirits, and I believe in signs in a sense. And with Grandad, his name is John Arthur Maddox, and I changed my surname to Maddox Brown to include his, because I'm essentially the last male in that line that, you know, could carry that name on, or that would want to carry that name on. And so John Arthur Maddox is JAM, and that's just another moment. So I keep everything like designed around his name and around that. And it's just that purpose and passion that sits within me, because he passed away when he was 32. And every year since I was 23, I've said, every year I get older, I want to be able to do something that by the time I'm 32, I can say I've done something, right? And I got stuck in a 11-year career in finance, and I got stuck through that sort of process, and just didn't enjoy it. And now I'm 30, and I was like, man, what have I done? Like, when I'm 32, I want to be able to say I'm doing everything that I'm proud of, and I'm living a life of meaning and purpose, right? And you mentioned earlier, you know, you write about what is the purpose of life, or what is the meaning of life. And when I was really struggling with my mental health, I always used to ask that, and like, that question is, what is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of life? And I sort of put this meaning to it in my own mind, that by asking the question of what is the meaning of life, it's sort of saying, well, life has got to give something to me, right? And I don't like that, because I like to control my outcomes and control my destiny in a way. And so I changed the 2 words in that sentence from, you know, what is the meaning of life, and I changed it to what is my meaning in life. And all of a sudden it just unlocked so much capacity for me to go, okay, my meaning in life, my purpose in life is to do this. And so it was about living beyond 32 for Grandad, basically, and what can I achieve in my life beyond 32 that he wasn't able to. And that goes back to one of the whys, is live for those that can't. He left his wife and his 3 daughters behind when he passed away, and not by his choice as well. It was like not health related. He was, you know, taken through, you know, like essentially murdered, and there was that, and it was 4 days before Mum's 10th birthday, and she, I think because it was so closely linked to her birthday, like, you know, like everyone talks about it, but I've got a close relationship to my mum naturally, and so we talk about it, and like how upsetting it was for her, and, you know, like about to turn 10, and then your dad's no longer here, and like imagine how bad that birthday was. But then 20 years would have been, well, it was 50 years ago today, right? So, you know, for me, 20 years ago I was born, 30 years ago I was born. And so for Mum, it's like a sense that how I feel is when he passed away, his spirit went into Mum as like a store of energy, and then when she gave birth to me, that energy, that spirit is me, you know. And like I'm the only one out of all of my cousins, you know, out of all of the cousins, there's, you know, me and my sister, and then there's one female cousin, and then there's another 4 boys. I'm the only one that really is like properly always talk about John, always have that like spirit. And I believe like he saved my life as well in like different ways. Like when I was younger, really, really down and sad, depressed, I would drive my car like I wouldn't care. That's a symptom of depression. And you know, reckless driving is that symptom. And one day I remember I was very close, you know, probably very close to making a mistake which could have ended really, really bad. And immediately after, flashed in my head, I'm here, you know, get yourself home. And I drove straight home, and he was in my head the whole time. And I was like, man, that's crazy. That was like weird that the immediately after, it was like it was on my shoulder, just being like, sort it out, you know, not now. And I think part of that as well, like, is I've gone through 15 years of depression and suicide ideation and all of that, and every time he's been a function of that. That Mum lost her dad when she was just as she was turning 10, and she didn't get to experience a life with her dad. I can't go because she'll not have the experience of a life with her son, right? And so there's like that two-play thing with it. But that was like one example, and then there's been like my army application. I wanted to follow in his footsteps and join the army in Australia. When I was 19, depression ruled me out, like my mental health, and probably wasn't mature enough to go for the role that I wanted.
I'm not sure anybody is, to be honest.
At 19, yeah, definitely.
Well, I just mean at any age, really. I mean, I don't know, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing, and I never wanted to join the army to, like, Granddad was a bomb disposal technician, so more like of the peacetime, like peacekeeping, peacetime, and creating safety, and that's what inspires me now, even today, is doing things for good. So I wanted to be an officer, and I wanted to work in like the humanitarian aid and stuff like that. Unfortunately, if you get to the army, you're not guaranteed to go where you want to go. So I didn't get in when I was 19. Then I reapplied when I think I was 23, when I knew that finance wasn't for me, and I went, and again, everything was great, passed. I literally had everything, letter of recommendation, pending the sign-off from the chief medical officer, and they said no as well, because I had shin splints, which has just been an issue of, you know, multiple ankle rolls and issues with my ankle ligaments and stuff. And there was that. And then the third time you only get 3 attempts to apply in Australia. The third time I was training up to go back in the army, and I was really working hard and getting fit again, getting back in shape, and then I had a collision with a car, and you know, tore my AC joint, tore my pec, got severe whiplash and nerve damage through my spine, and that was that. And it was like you had to say goodbye. When I was going through my counselling and therapy for that, it was basically, it would always pop up that Granddad, I was letting Granddad down, right? And but I don't think that that's the case. I think that he was
the one stopping you, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like he was the one stopping me, and I had to go through a whole morning thing. I was really sad, and like that's my dream. It's been my dream since I was a kid. That is always, for some reason, I've not been able to get to, and I think it's him stopping me to lead me into exactly what I'm doing now, which is a far better purpose. You know, I'm able to help people achieve their dreams and share their stories and inspire people and help other people's businesses grow. and I just love it. I love what I do. First thing I do when I wake up, I think about work. Last thing I do when I go to bed, I think about work and how can I make an impact tomorrow. And I think I'm on the right path with that. And he's always there. Like he's always there in my mind every single day. You know, with or without any of his like memorabilia. I had his dog tag, which I kept so I wore it on my chest like forever. And then the chain broke before I left Australia, so I didn't have time to like get a new one or fix it. And then I was nearly went and got a new chain when I was in Africa, and then I didn't. And then I got to England and I actually like had the dog tag in my wallet, and I lost that, and I was like really sad. But then it was just like he sort of just like this feeling came in me, and it was like, doesn't matter, like I'm here still, right? I put him in the dog tag that I had, but it's not like he is like within me. And so yeah, I just have this weird feeling, either spiritually on the outside as a third party, or like within me as me. Part of me is him, and like he's been reborn in me in a way that I'm able to, you know, support my mum when she needs support with anything, and just know that, like, yeah, just sort of in that protector role, I suppose. And yeah, so I think that's like super interesting with like reincarnation. And it, like when you were telling me the story before, it reminded me of that movie. I don't know if you've seen it, A Dog's Purpose.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, and that, like, that's such a beautiful way to live, is thinking that, you know, you don't have to carry in the, like, ultimately our bodies is the carrier of the soul and the spirit, right? That's what I believe. And it doesn't matter what body you're in, like, that's the carrier, but like the essence of you still exists. And just thinking about that is going, okay, that's really cool, because when I'm gone, I might not look the same way. I could return as a butterfly, a dog, a cat, a bird, or whatever, but I'm still here, and I'm still here to contribute in the natural life cycle of Earth, right? And because at the end of the day, we're all made up of the same chemicals and compounds and what, you know, the science stuff, and I think that's like a really interesting thing. But yeah, I love reincarnation, and I actually talked about it with my therapist as well, where she asked me to watch a YouTube video on it, and there was this girl who was from India, I believe, and she passed away really young, and then she was reborn. She didn't pass away really young, but like young enough, like pre-teens, I believe. And then she was reborn, and as she got older, she kept having these visions of this place she had never been, this family she had never seen on the other side of the country. And she said, I need to go here, we have to go here. And she got there, and it was just like this crazy experience that, like, she just knew everything. She goes, this is where I slept. Like, she can actually point it out.
Oh, there are literally hundreds of thousands, if not more, stories, you know,
Yeah.
and where they're, you know, especially to young children who couldn't know it any other way, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and a lot of times you can ask a little kid and they'll remember who they were, you know.
Yeah.
And I love your story also because it is a little different than the traditional, here's what reincarnation and how it works. And to me, I love that because none of us know for sure, right?
Yeah.
We can think we know for sure, but we might not know for sure. And the more we open and you say, I think it's like this, and like it's carried through your mother to you, that opens my mind to, like, well, that's an interesting way to look at it versus, no, that doesn't fit this box I want to put you in, you know. And to me, that's the difference between religion and spirituality. Is religion says this is the box and you fit this box, and if you want to fit in this box, this is how we believe. And I think spiritual is like, I'm an explorer. I'm going to constantly be exploring new ways to look at it. There is no box, you know. There is no spoon, to quote the Matrix, right? There is no box. All these possibilities can open up minds, and that's the greatest gift we can give, is to open up people's minds. I mean, that,
yeah, absolutely.
you know.
And yeah, just through storytelling and sharing and just, I think what it is about is if you're able to just sit and be present with the thoughts and allow different perspectives to enter your mind, it makes things so much better. It makes life so much more enjoyable, because so many people are told this is the way, this is the only way, and everything else is wrong, that you get stuck in that cycle, and you don't, and then you have that perspective, and what I believe, if you have that, then you get stuck in that division, right?
Right, you get divided, and you also start thinking, well, something's wrong with me because I'm not in that box. And I'm like, well, there's no box, there is no spoon, there is no box, right? And so what do you believe? Let's talk about it, because that's an interesting way to look at the world. And I do hope you write up your story about your grandfather, because and can add it to our podcast, because I think that there's a really beautiful story there, and that's what we're about. Is like, how do you turn that into a story? And you've got the beginnings of all of that to say, okay, I feel like I've got this now. This is how he's affected my life, and even in Africa and Germany and all these things, are like, okay, whether for me it's in my story it's the upstairs, team, or whether it's your grandfather or whoever, whatever that force is, because I think you were kind of mentioning the confluence between science and faith, right, or religion or whatever. It's like, I think the more we can bring them together, the better we'll be. And I think that even Einstein said, well, you can't call me an atheist because I know somebody planned all this. Like, this was not an accident. This world could not be so well designed, and not have some sort of creator that had an intelligent design, right? So it's just really, it's just really fun, and that's, it's about having fun. Like, I've got somebody writing a ghost story that's not as scary, because we don't allow horror stories for our podcast, but it's a comedy, and it's like this ghost story comedy, and I can't wait to have it on the podcast, because it's like a whole other way to look at it. Like, let's just have fun with it, Yeah,
absolutely. And I think if you have fun, like if you're able to have fun with the message that you're sharing, and other people can enjoy that, it makes it more light-hearted, right? Because some people, it's very difficult to get into something if it's so serious the whole time.
Right, and especially if there's creepy music, that you're listening to. And it's like, wait a minute, like there's a TV show, and they use this really creepy music, and there was an episode I saw with a boy that apparently had died in 9/11, and on the Twin Towers, and they're like, yes, that is awful, and he's back, and he's here, and he's okay. You know what I mean? Like, so it kind of takes this, this sting out. In fact, it's when you write and people say, oh, you killed your character, it's like, yeah, but I can bring him back. I don't have any limitations on how many times I can bring them back if I want to. So it's just really great.
All you have to do is look at Prison Break for that, right? They killed Michael Scofield off like at the end of season 4, and then he was back in season 5.
Well, with reincarnation, you can bring him back all different ways.
Exactly.
So I can't wait to share my stories with your viewers and your fans and your folks. And I hope they'll have stories to share back. And I want your story back. And
absolutely. We'll definitely be able to put something together, and keep sharing the message, and we'll do that other episode that we've talked about as well, but I guess to wrap up today, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you wanted to, you've got your books, you've got your podcast that you've mentioned as well, so where can our listeners find you and find that? And then is there anything that you would like to promote for yourself as well today?
Well, thanks. I mean, I'm sure you'll put in show notes links to, I'm the only Brownell Landrum in the world. I don't think there are any in Australia either. And so that's pretty easy to find me. The Life is a Trip Reincarnation Group story, Reincarnation Stories group on Facebook. Please join us if people are interested in that. That's another way to find me. Hopefully you'll put a link to people download the end so they can read that, and we've got a Facebook group to discuss that. I've had 2 people tell me that they think it's a college course, just that 9,000 word story.
Really?
So and I'm like, that's cool. So we've got discussion groups, a lot of people wanting to discuss that, so I'm totally into that and wanting to share that. And then my novels, and hopefully I'm going to do a 99-cent deal for the first book up until launch, and I'm basically, they do that so that you can get the algorithms on Amazon, but I'll give them any of my other books for free. So if they sign it. So it's not about necessarily making the money. It's about getting the story out, right, and getting the messages out, and having people enjoy it. So that's the goal. So I know we'll schedule another one to talk about another kind of trip, and that'll be fun.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So we'll put everything out for you, and we'll promote it because your books, your series of novels are released next month. Is that
yes,
right?
September 17th.
September 17th, perfect. So we'll put that out.
And of course, somebody might be listening to this September 17th, 2029 or something, but hopefully they'll still find my books.
Yeah, it is 2024 right now, but the books will still be up and available. And just to finish off right now is what's next for you? What's the next? You've got your book.
Tunisia again.
Yeah, Tunisia again.
And I'm going to write some more stories. I've got a couple of other things that are in progress. And I'm just going to be out there doing my podcast and trying to, it'll give me a thrill if any of the other writers that shared stories get published or produced on as a TV or movie or what. I mean, all of that will just give me a thrill. So I'm excited about all that. We're on IMDb, so they can get IMDb credit if they're a writer. That's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm super, super happy and grateful, and you've had some amazing insights, and I just love the journey that you've been on, and just now your sharing journey as well with being able to write, and something for me I've always struggled with is writing. I nearly failed Year 12 English in Australia and nearly had to repeat the year and stuff, but I'm getting into it a lot more is I think through my own journaling.
Your grandfather will help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's so much now that I'm writing that I'm putting my thoughts out on paper a lot more, which is really, really cool. So and I can't wait to read your the novels which are coming out and sharing everything else that you've got going on too. So
well, thanks.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for whoever's watching and listening. That's great.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.